Okay, thank you for joining this call. We did have a press conference. This is Austin Barbour, Senior Advisor with Thad Cochran's campaign. Jordan Russell is here with me. He was the spokesman for Senator Cochran's campaign. We will give everybody with the media an opportunity to ask a question when we get through with open statements. Sounds like we still have more people joining. So, hey, let me begin by thanking you for your time, thanking you for joining the call. We just got through with a press conference. If you could please mute your phone, that'd be helpful as well. We're going to try our best to get through this call. We did just get through with a press conference here with our in-state media as we sort of gave an update on where the campaign is and sort of some different issues that are involved in the campaign and the runoff election. And let me begin saying it's always had been our hope that after the runoff ended, we could have moved to the general election. We've been very gracious to Senator McDaniel, supporters about their efforts. Listen, they ran a tough campaign. They gave it their all. Applaud them for that. Certainly, they gave great efforts throughout the state, and have been very gracious and supportive, and applaud them for their efforts. Just sort of unfortunately, the time now has come that we as the Cochran campaign can sort of no longer sit silent with all of the baseless accusations that have been fed to members of the media here in Mississippi and outside Mississippi by the McDaniel campaign and many of their out-of-state allies. To be quite candid with you that are on the call that are with the media, there will be some issues today that I will not be able to discuss. We will not be able to discuss because of conversations that we are having with our lawyers. So please forgive me if you ask me questions that we cannot go into details with. So listen, as we came out of the primary election, we knew that one of our biggest areas that we had to sort of overcome was our GOTV, our ground game. We needed to get more voters to the runoff. There was no question about that. Priority number one for our campaign was GOTV. As many of you know, GOTV stands for Get Out the Vote. We knew that was what we needed to revolve our runoff election and was around GOTV. We immediately started bringing on more people to help us knock on doors, make phone calls, reach voters in barber shops, coffee shops, Sunday school classes all throughout Mississippi. Look, we went back to the same playbook that was used in top Republican campaigns in 2003, 2007, 2008, 2011, et cetera, et cetera. All of these campaigns here in Mississippi I had some type of involvement with. We went back to sort of the basic GOTV ground game playbooks. And obviously, you look back at the results from June the 24th, where Senator Cochran won by about 7,000 votes, or about 2% of the total electorate, and it proves that our efforts with GOTV worked. We have thousands of Mississippians who voted for Thad on the 24th, who've always voted for Thad throughout all his elections. What we knew as a fact was that there were many of these people who voted for Thad on the 24th who just sat at home on the 3rd for whatever reason that they did. And we knew that we had to get them back out to the polls, and that was one of our efforts by bringing on so many new people. Again, I'd ask you if you'd please mute your phone for the benefit of the other members of the media who are on the call right now. Sort of the process now is that we're dealing with, and obviously the McDaniel campaign is dealing with now. As many of you know, our state law in Mississippi does allow for poll books to be reviewed, results to be challenged, and so forth. What we want to say is, listen, if the McDaniel campaign wants to do that, if they want to go to courthouses and look at poll books, if they want to file a challenge, we got no problem with that whatsoever. We've been meeting and working with them at different courthouses throughout our 82 counties here in Mississippi, continuing to review data from June the 24th. But as we said earlier, the time has certainly come in our mind for the McDaniel campaign and their allies to either put up or shut up. If they have hard evidence, bring it forward. Well, let's quit talking about exaggerated numbers of votes if they say or this or that, and that they know are darn well not factual. I work myself here in Hinds County, and for those of you who are not familiar with Hinds County, it's where our capital city is. Jackson. It's one of our largest counties in the state. It was just about had the largest number of total votes in Mississippi on June the 24th, just behind Rankin County. And I worked very closely with a man named Bill Billingsley. Bill Billingsley was the representative for the McDaniel campaign as they were reviewing the books in Hinds County. I worked closely with Bill throughout that process. He could not have been a nicer guy, more of a gentleman, professional attitude, and just was there to do his job on behalf of the campaign, and I respect and appreciate the efforts that he did. As I told Bill, when he got through looking at all the different poll books, and he talked to reporters, and as I told him and then I told reporters, as much as I respect the efforts that he did, the information that he provided them in terms of the number of voters that they claimed had voted in the Democrat primary and then had been allowed to vote in the Republican runoff were just quite wrong. We're wrong. And I can give you some examples to sort of help put this in easy perspective for you. Again, this is important for the folks who are in the media on this call. So please mute your phone if you do not mind. I'm grateful for that, and I know they will be too. A couple of examples are the Fondren Presbyterian Church precinct, which is precinct 14 for those of you who are not familiar with the Fondren Presbyterian Church here in Jackson. The McDaniel campaign claimed that there were about 190 so votes that they had issues with. Again, this would have been 190 voters who participated allegedly had participated in the Democrat primary and that had been allowed to vote in the Republican runoff. Well, common sense would clearly tell you that this 190 number that they had claimed, if that were true, then you would have had to have at least 190 people who would have voted in the Democrat primary. So we went back and looked at the total votes in the Democrat primary for precinct 14. There was only around 25 votes. So that right there was pretty hard evidence to us that their numbers were just wrong. There's another precinct that I want to give you an example of, which is the Eastover precinct, which is precinct 34 here in Jackson. Please mute your phone. They claim that there was about 130 votes that they had issues with. When I went back and looked at the total returns from the Democrat runoff, there was only about 35 or so votes in the Democrat primary total votes. So again, you had a situation where their numbers just didn't make sense, not add up.
Quick question: since black people
you'll have a chance to ask a question at the end of the call.
Why is it okay to harvest the votes of black people?
All right. So listen, I will give everybody an opportunity to ask a question when we get through, and we'll be happy to answer any questions from any members of the media. So again, the issue is, as we just talked about, some very specific Hinds County examples.
I'd like to know if black people were harvesting cotton, why do you think it's okay to harvest their votes? They're not animals.
Okay, so this
why are
is
you
what we're
treating
going to do.
People like they're just there to
okay, I'm
get their
happy
votes?
Sir, I don't know, where you're calling from, but I'm happy to address any question, no matter the lunacy of it,
at
some point in time in this
why
call.
did you use black people? Why did you use black people to try to get Cochran elected when they're not even Republicans, and you're treating them as if they're just idiots that they'll vote for Cochran just because they're black? That's ridiculous. Why did you harvest black votes?
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to try to keep going through this call, and if the individuals who've decided that they want to try to hijack this call will just let us get through with it, I'll be glad to answer any of the questions. So again, I just gave you a couple.
Why do you treat black people like just because they're black, they're going to vote for Cochran?
All right, so the members of the national media who participated in this call, you've got my cell phone, you've got my email address. You have Jordan Russell's cell phone, you have Jordan Russell's email address. Please feel free to give us a call if you have any questions. We tried to do this as a courtesy to the national media who could not be in Jackson today for our press conference. So if you have an opportunity, please feel free to call us.
One quick legitimate question.
I'm sorry that the call was hijacked.
Let him talk.
He's ending it. That's why I tried to interrupt.
If he wouldn't have interrupted, he wouldn't have ended it.
He was ending it. I was silent.
Well, we were all listening. We were all listening, and you were being rude.
I wasn't the one that was saying stuff about cotton. I didn't say a word till just now.
Who was the one who was asking the question about cotton?
I don't know who's on this phone call, but if you consider yourself to be a responsible member of the media, you'll learn how to conduct yourself when it's pain is holding a conference call. You give him a chance to answer your questions at the end of his presentation.
Yeah. And the guy about the cotton kept interrupting, and Austin was ending the call. I tried to throw in a quick question, that's all.
They didn't have it like...
And he should have answered, and he would have got that out of the way.
No, there would have just been another question after that one.
That's not how calls work.
I know, but it was obvious he was ending the call after the cotton guy. That was very obvious. Anyway.
Who was the one who was asking the question?
Was that Chuck Johnson?
I don't know.
No, it was not Chuck Johnson.
No, that was not.
It was not Chuck Johnson.
All right.
So why wasn't the question answered?
Because it wasn't the time for the questions.
No,
the man that was asking about, the man that was responding about the cotton, or the one that call ended.
He's the one that killed the call, I agree.
He's the one that killed the call.
If he would have answered that one question, he could have kept going.
But then everybody else would have started asking questions. He told us all at the very beginning.
I think the problem is we got more soybeans down here than we do cotton to harvest.
He told us all at the very beginning.
I agree.
Let him do his presentation,
I don't blame him for
and then he'll
the call.
answer questions.
I agree. I don't blame him for ending the call.
I don't either.
No, I don't either.
I was the one that interrupted at the very end and asked if I could ask one quick question, because it was obvious the call was ending.
Who was the person who asked the question about cotton?
This is retweeted by Roll Call.
He's probably hung up by now.
Yeah, if he was a Chris supporter, he didn't do Chris any favors.
No,
he did not do Chris any favors, and he probably did not come into the call until after Austin had said, "I'll take questions at the end." He probably didn't even know.
It was Austin Barbour.
Oh, Austin Barbour, but at the beginning of the call, he let us know that he would answer questions after he got through his presentation.
He laid out the
But the
terms,
man interrupted him and was trying to throw in questions. He can't talk over him.
Well, you're not going to get an answer from anybody by trying to bully.
It wasn't
the
even a
conversation.
question. He was just repeating the same thing over and over again.
All right. He didn't do Chris he didn't do Chris McDaniel any favors.
No, he didn't.
Everyone have a good afternoon.
Who knows? It could have been a plant. Could have been a Cochran campaign plant.
It could have been too.
That's the reason to end the call.
Maybe it was Obama. You folks are pathetic.
Cochran supporters or not?
I just wanted to hear the presentation, how the press conference went, and then have questions asked and answered. And somebody, whoever it was, threw up about the cotton. He ruined it.
Most civilized people can conduct themselves on a conference call. This whole thing of harvesting blacks, that is so thinly veiled. And I bet you, I won't bet anything, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was Chuck Johnson. He's a hack.
It wasn't Chuck Johnson.
Not Chuck Johnson.
And you know that for a fact, and who was it?
I do.
Yes, I
do.
I know his voice, and that was not his
I know his voice, too.
Right.
I don't know Chuck Johnson, but if you don't know it was him, you don't need to be throwing his name out.
Exactly.
Phone number.
All right, I'm moving on, folks. Have a good afternoon.
Yeah, me too. Y'all now. Bye.
It's a shame. We didn't get to learn anything.
Are there any McDaniel supporters on here?
Yep. I am.
Okay.
Yes, I am. Here's one.
But he wasn't doing McDaniel no favor whatsoever.
No,
he didn't.
No, he was making us look like uneducated asses, is what he was making. I'm sorry, but that's the point blank end of it. He was making everybody from Mississippi look like an uneducated ass.
Exactly.
You're right.
Bringing up issues that aren't even pertinent anymore.
Right.
I'm 36 years old. I'm a white female, and I have picked cotton, and I have sprayed cotton on the front of a spray rig.
Me too.
You know,
Well,
none
I'll
of that
pick cotton.
stuff is pertinent anymore.
I pick cotton.
Well, nobody who it was soliciting the Democratic vote, and nobody who was in McDaniel's campaign would have ever referred to any racist remarks.
No.
That was a setup so that it could get out in media that McDaniel's people were referring to blacks as cotton pickers. It was obvious.
And
that was
now
not
they can
Chuck's
control.
voice,
Right.
but I do have a
That was
suspicion
probably
I
a
know who
Cochran
it is.
supporter. Is that
Now
what
they
you're saying?
control what the media
No,
thinks was
I have a
said,
suspicion
too.
I know who it is.
Can I ask a
Because his
question?
liberal.
What do you think it was?
That would be reported as a...
I don't want to say without having actual proof, but it's an individual who is attacking Johnson and has been in his liberal referendum referring to McDaniel as a Confederate sympathizer and quite a few racist things out of the
Could I
story.
ask a quick question? I apologize for breaking in. Could I ask a quick question? Is there any way that that particular gentleman could be traced by, are the phone numbers